Attention seniors, 70 panandang pandagdag. Starting April 2026, new airport rules could deny you at the gate, yes, even if you have your lay-in ticket. I'll reveal how this affects not just your travel but also updates on LAI pension payments, plus the latest on the LUA pension crisis that every senior must know. Don't miss out, subscribe now and stay informed because this channel is made nully for you seniors facing these shocking changes. Picture this. You are 73 years old. You have saved up for months, maybe even longer. You have packed your bag, kissed your family goodbye, and driven yourself to the airport with a heart full of excitement. You have flown dozens of times in your life. You know the drill. You walk up to the nearest security checkpoint, reach into your wallet, pull out your driver's license, the same one you have been using for years, slide it across the counter, and the officer looks at it, looks at you, and shakes his head. That license is no longer valid for flying. You are not getting through that checkpoint today. Not without paying a $45 fee you had absolutely no idea existed. And if you cannot figure out how to pay it right there on the spot, your flight might just leave without you. This is not a horror story. This is what is actually happening to thousands of travelers across the United States right now in 2026, and seniors are being hit the hardest. Not because there is some law targeting elderly people, but because the rules changed dramatically and nobody told them. The information was out there, buried in government websites and press releases, while millions of Americans, particularly older adults who don't spend their days scrolling through TIA policy updates, simply went on living their lives, assuming that the same driver's license they have carried in their wallet for the last decade would still get them onto a plane. It will not. And if you are over 70, or if you love someone who is, this is the most important travel video you will watch all year. Let's start at the very beginning, because the story of what is happening at airports right now goes back further than most people realize. After the September 11 attacks, the United States government convened the Siyam Paghahati 11 Commission to figure out how something so catastrophic could have happened. Among the many recommendations that came out of that investigation was push for stronger identity verification standards at airports. The result was the Real A Act, signed into law back in 2005. That is over 20 years ago. For 2 decades, the government kept issuing extensions and delays, telling states to get their identification cards up to federal standards and telling travelers to upgrade their licenses. But never truly enforcing it. People got used to ignoring it. Life went on, and then suddenly, in May of 2025, enforcement finally began in full. Starting May 7, 2025, every adult traveler 18 and older must show Real ID-compliant license or another approved form of identification to board domestic flights. Legal shield. That was the first massive wave of change. And now, layered on top of that, beginning February 1, 2026, travelers flying from LIA. Airports face an important change at security checkpoints that could cost them as $45 if they arrive without Real ID-compliant identification or another acceptable document. Travel and Tour World. This new system is called TI Confirmed, and it is now the reality that every single American traveler must understand before they step foot in an airport. So what exactly is a Real ID, and how do you know if you have one? This is the first question you need to answer, and the good news is that it is actually very simple to check. Look at your driver's license right now. Does it have a star symbol in the top corner? If yes, you are covered. At TripInfo, that little gold or black star is the signal that your state-issued license meets federal security standards. It means your state collected the right documentation from you when you got or renewed your license. Things like proof of citizenship or lawful status, proof of your social security number, and proof of your home address. If your license has that star, you walk through airport security exactly the same way you always have. Nothing changes for you. But if your license does not have that star, and millions of Americans are in this exact situation, then your old way of doing things is no longer going to work. Now here is where seniors in particular have been caught off guard. Many older adults have not renewed their licenses in years because they simply did not need to if you live in a state where licenses are valid for 8 or 10 years. And you renewed yours back in 2017 or 2018, there is a real chance your license never got upgraded to real E standards, especially if your state was still in the process of rolling out the new system at that time. You have been driving around with a perfectly legal license that works fine for everything in your everyday life, but it will now stop you cold at an airport security checkpoint. And if you are not someone who travels frequently or follows aviation news, you may be walking into that airport with absolutely no idea this has happened. As of May 7, 2025, state-issued driver's licenses and IDs that are not real compliant are no longer accepted as valid forms of identification at airports. Transportation Security Administration, the words "no longer accepted" are worth sitting with for a moment because they are real. This is not a warning. This is not a suggestion. Officers at TIAD checkpoints across the country are turning people away when they present non-compliant aids. And the number of people being affected grows every single month as more travelers discover that the license they have used for years simply does not meet the new standard. So what are your options if you show up at the airport and you do not have real ID? This is where things get practical and where you need to pay very close attention. If you do not have real ID or other acceptable form of identification, you have the option to use TIAG Confirmed ID paying US $45 fee for a 0-day travel period. Transportation Security Administration, the system was designed to be safety net, a fallback for travelers who genuinely did not know about the new rules or who forgot to bring the right documents. Here is how it works. You visit TIAS Gov Confirmed, pay the US $45 fee, receive payment receipt email from Pay Gov, and then at the airport you show that receipt along with whatever government issued you do have. New officers then run you through an additional identity verification process to confirm who you are. It takes extra time, it costs money, and DIA expects increased wait times for passengers who do not provide an acceptable ID. Transportation Security Administration, so this is not the seamless or pleasant experience. It is a last resort. The better option, obviously, is to avoid this situation entirely, either getting your driver's license upgraded to real ID at your state's Department of Motor Vehicles, or really traveling with your passport instead. And this is crucial information for seniors in particular. If you are a frequent domestic traveler and already carry your passport in your wallet or travel bag, the real ID requirement is essentially irrelevant to your travel experience. Your passport already satisfies the identification requirement for every domestic flight. A trip info, a passport book, or a passport card both work. If you have the passport sitting in a drawer at home, start putting it in your travel bag every time you valley, because that single document solves the problem completely. If you do not have a passport and want to get your license upgraded to real ID, the process requires visit to your state ELU with the right documents. You will typically need to bring proof of identity such as a birth certificate or passport, proof of your social security number, and 2 proofs of your current address such as utility bills or bank statements. It can feel like a lot to gather, especially for older adults who may not have all of these documents easily at hand, but it is a one-time effort that completely solves the problem for years to come. Many states are offering appointments and have staff who can assist you through the process, so it is absolutely worth doing before your next trip. Now let us talk about what else has changed at airports in 2026 because real LA is only the beginning of the story. One of the most welcome changes, and one that is particularly good news for seniors, is the end of the shoe removal rule. In July 2025, NIA announced passengers can now keep their shoes on during screening. Legal shield for younger travelers. This might feel like a minor convenience, but for anyone over 70 who has difficulty bending down, balancing on one foot, or sitting on cold airport floor trying to wrestle shoe back on, this is genuinely transformative. No more undoing laces while a line of impatient passengers stands behind you. No more stockinged feet on airport floors. You walk through security in your shoes, same as you would walk into a grocery store. NIA officers do retain the right to ask some travelers to remove shoes if additional screening is needed, so it is not an absolute guarantee, but the default is now shoes on. Another significant change involves airport scanning technology, and this one is actually making travel easier and faster for everyone. Many airports across the country have now installed advanced seat scanning machines that allow tiered officers to see through bags with far greater clarity than ever before. At airports that have these newer machines, you might not need to remove liquids from your bag because tiered officers can see through bags clearly with the new machines. Legal shield. The traditional 311 liquid rule, where every liquid had to be in containers of 34 ounces or less in a quart-sized clear bag, still technically applies, but at airports with the newer lead scanners, you may not be asked to take those items out and send them through separately. This varies yearly airport, so it is always worth checking the specific rules for wherever you are departing from, but the trend is clearly toward less hassle at the security lane. Now let us talk specifically about the protections and accommodations that exist for senior travelers, because there is genuinely good news here that many older adults simply do not know about. The AIL has specific rules and programs designed to make security screening more accessible and less stressful for elderly travelers, and knowing about these before you get to the airport can make an enormous difference. If you are 75 years of age or older in wheelchair or scooter, you may remain seated and the LIAL officer will conduct tests of your hands for trace of explosives. Transportation Security Administration. You do not have to stand up. You do not have to walk through a scanner, and you do not have to be separated from your mobility device except for the moment it needs to be inspected. Seniors over 75 no longer have to remove their shoes or outerwear during security screening. First Light Home Care. If they trigger metal detector, they will be allowed to pass through it second time before being required to undergo additional screening. This means that the overall security experience for travelers in their mid-70s and beyond is designed to be notably more accommodating than what the rest of the traveling population experiences. But here is the thing, you have to know about these accommodations in order to benefit from them. Many seniors stand in the regular line, struggle through the same process everyone else goes through, and never realize that they were entitled to different, easier experience. One of the most important programs that older travelers and their families need to know about is NIA Cares. Yile calling guest cares at 855-8722-2227 at least 72 hours before your flight. You can arrange for a passenger support specialist to help you through security, specifically if you have metal implants, portable oxygen, or difficulty standing. Go grandparent, this is a free service. There is no charge for it. A LIA employee will meet you at the checkpoint and personally guide you through the entire screening process, explaining each step, advocating for you with other officers, and making sure the experience is as smooth and dignified as possible. For seniors who travel with pacemakers, artificial joints, SPAP machines, insulin pumps, portable oxygen concentrators, or any number of other medical devices, this service is absolutely invaluable. These devices can trigger alarms, require additional screening, and create stressful and confusing situations at security checkpoints. But when you have called TIV cares in advance and have specialists waiting for you, the process becomes manageable. Speaking of medical devices, there is critical information that every senior traveler needs to carry in their head before going to an airport. Passengers with pacemakers and defibrillators should not go through the metal detector. They will be screened using advanced imaging technology or another alternative screening method at the checkpoint. Aging care. Come if you have any surgically implanted device, you need to inform the NIL officer before you begin the screening process, not after an alarm goes off. Proactive communication is the key. Many doctors can provide medical card that lists your implanted devices, and while this card will not exempt you from screening, it gives officers clear information about your condition and speeds up the process of finding the right alternative screening method for you. Your walker, cane, crutches, or other mobility aid will be X-rayed or hand inspected. If you use a scooter or your own wheelchair, an agent will hand inspect them and may screen them for traces of explosives. Lifeline. This is standard procedure, and it applies to everyone with a mobility device regardless of age. Any bags or satchels attached to your mobility device must be removed and placed on the X-ray belt for inspection. Aging care. Come knowing this in advance means you will not be caught off guard when an officer asks you to hand over the pouch attached to your walker. It also means you should think carefully about what you put in those attached bags, since everything will need to be unzipped and screened separately. If you use a SPAP, BPAP, or APAP machine for sleep apnea, and many people over 70 do, there are specific rules for how to handle that equipment at security. Pack your gear in clear plastic bag inside its carrying case because it must go through the X-ray screener. Masks and hoses can stay in the case, and liquids used with your nebulizer are exempt from the 311 rule. Lifeline. So you do not need to worry about the distilled water in your machine's humidifier tank being confiscated. That is medically necessary liquid, and TIA treats it differently from the regular liquid rules. On the airline side, wheelchair service is available from the airport drop-off point all the way to the gate, and seniors or family members should contact the airline at least 48 hours before the flight to request this assistance. Flying Angels. This service is free on all major U.S. carriers. Wheelchair assistance is free on Delta, United, Southwest, and other major airlines. Gobo Grandparent. If you or someone you love has any difficulty walking long distances, and airports can involve walking very long distances indeed, there's absolutely no reason to struggle through it when free assistance is available. Simply calling ahead. When you request assistance, your reservation will be marked with a special assistance requested note so airport staff know to meet you at check-in or curbside. Flying Angels. There is also something worth addressing directly because misleading YouTube videos and social media posts have been spreading panic among all their travelers about something that simply is not true. You may have seen videos claiming that airline staff are observing seniors as they walk through airports and denying boarding to anyone who looks tired, confused, or moves too slowly. While airlines have always had the right to refuse boarding to anyone they deem unfit to ride, they are not targeting the elderly or disabled. Rick Steves Travel Forum gate agents are not conducting covered fitness assessments of older passengers. There is no policy requiring medical clearance forms for travelers over 70 simply because of their age. These videos are designed to generate fear, clicks, and advertising revenue, and they do real harm, nearly making seniors afraid to travel when they have every right and every ability to do so. Please be skeptical of any video that uses the phrase, "they will deny you at the gate" in its title. Always verify travel information through official ES and airline websites before allowing it to change your plans. What is actually true and genuinely helpful is that there is a new program being tested at select airports that could be wonderful for senior travelers. NIRA is rolling out limited program allowing non-ticketed individuals to accompany travelers through security to the gate. The program is currently being tested at select airports including San Diego, Seattle, Orlando, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. Guests must apply in advance and receive digital pass via email. To travel, this means that if you are dropping off an elderly parent at the airport or helping an older relative navigate the terminal, there may soon be a legitimate way to walk them all the way to the gate rather than saying goodbye at the security line. This program is still in pilot mode, but it represents exactly the kind of thoughtful, passenger-friendly thinking that makes air travel more accessible for older adults and their families. So what is the action plan? What do you do right now, before your next trip, to make sure you are not one of the people standing at an airport checkpoint in shock? The steps are actually very clear. First, go find your driver's license right now and look for that star in the upper corner. If it is there, you are good on the left front. If it is not there, either make an appointment at your state yale to get a real A or start traveling with your LUA passport. Second, if you have any medical device, mobility challenge, or condition that might affect your security screening, call List Cares at 855-782-8222 at least 72 hours before your flight and ask for a passenger support specialist. It is free, it is available, and it can completely transform your airport experience. Third, if you need wheelchair assistance in the terminal, call your airline at least 48 hours in advance and request it. Fourth, arrive earlier than you think you need to. With any additional screening, medical device checks, or confirmed processing, extra time is your best friend. An extra hour at the airport is a minor inconvenience. Missing your flight is a catastrophe. The bottom line is this. Air travel in 2026 is genuinely more complicated than it was 5 years ago, and the rules have changed significantly enough that assumptions can get you into serious trouble at the checkpoint. But it is also true that the system, when you know how to use it, has more accommodations, more support programs, and more protections for older travelers than ever before. Seniors are not being targeted. They are not being singled out for denial. What they are sometimes being caught is a lack of information, and that is exactly the gap this video was meant to close. Share this with your parents, your grandparents, your elderly neighbors, and anyone else in your life who loves to travel. Because the only thing standing between them and that next great adventure should be excitement, not confusion at checkpoint that could have been avoided entirely with a little bit of preparation.